It's been a few days since we had a mass shooting, and Congress still has a hard on for gun control, so, like clockwork, we see another so called mass shooting. So, we'll discuss some of the details, especially considering I'm quite well aware of the location where this is. So, we'll talk a bit about that. In other news, the New York Times and the Washington Post are forced to retract statements that they made about the former attorney for President Trump, Rudolph W. Giuliani. So we'll talk just a bit about that. Liz Cheney might be on the chopping block yet again for her leadership role. So we'll talk a bit about what's going on there. And Houston police uncover a disturbing human smuggling case. So we'll talk a bit about what happened that. It's going to be all that and more. Hey, 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 do you trust the plan yet? I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar. And I know I'm running a little bit behind today. I got home from Kenosha last night and did just a little bit of work with the Red and Ed schedule, but I did not prep anything for today. So we're kind of flying a little bit by the seat of the pants here, but we've got a show that's set up and ready to go. Plus a little bit of propaganda I discovered right before we went live too. So we're going to get through it all. We're going to see what's happening in the world, and I'm going to transmit that information to you. But before we get started, make sure that you're going over and checking out my friends over at the Freedom Scoop Media Group. Pardon our dust, we remain to be under construction right now, but we are finalizing the last little bits to get this website out and ready to go for you guys. But even without the website, you can go over and check out my friends, The Generational Gap, The Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, The R-Rated Conservative, and The Freckles and Brit Show. You can head on over there at any time and go check out my friends, and once we get back up and running, you'll have a convenient place where you can find all of their archives, plus ways to support all of those great creators. You can go over there and check them out. And once we're back up and running, you can pick up some of our swag and help us support great creators. All right, looking in at the Dow this morning, the Dow spent the almost entire day down to 33,874.85. That is Friday's trading. So way off the records here, but we'll talk a bit about what happened with that and why we're sitting and seeing some of that. On Bitcoin, those of you who bought the dip are probably looking a little bit happy right now. I'm not going to say really happy because, 3,000 as compared to 58,000 is a fairly small percentage, but still you're probably seeing a little bit of a glee right now because we're at 58,432 US dollars and 60 US cents over the weekend. So that's going to be some good news for the people who did grab into the dip. And gas around the Madison area. Looks like the 254s went away, and we're up to the majority of stations around Madison, Wisconsin, holding 259 for gas. So take that as you will and apply that to what's been happening around your local pump stations as well. I've seen some stuff around like California and whatnot where they're seeing $5 a gallon already over in California, which is a little bit ridiculous, I'm not going to lie. I went out and I had to throw some fuel in Kenosha yesterday for, I think it was 285 where I had to go fill up. So yeah, it's crawling up there in a hurry. So we're going to see what some of the aftermath is going to be from that, especially once we go into the economy. All right, let's read from IBD. Let's get the live chat up here so I can see what you guys are doing. Make sure I've got volume and everything too. You guys will tell me if something is going wrong. I know you will. All right, from IBD, Investors Business Daily, Dow Jones Futures rise, Apple leads 5 stocks with bullish declines, Tesla's Berlin plant delayed. From Ed Carson, Dow Jones Futures rose Monday morning along with S&P 500 futures and NASDAQ futures. The stock market rally finished last week. Little changed, earnings from Apple stock, Tesla, and hundreds more. It was a tough week for buying stocks, but it was a constructive week for many stocks. Looks like they've got listed for us 5 near buy points, so if you're looking for something, talk to your investor about Apple, Nvidia, Index Labs, Tesla, and Cloudflare. Apple, Nvidia, Index, Tesla retreated last week, but they may come out the better for it. Cloudflare stock did post a weekly gain, but had a healthy pullback later in the week. Apple stock and Tesla had earnings last week, while IDEX and NetStock are on tap this week. Nvidia earnings are a few weeks away. Meanwhile, German media reported that Tesla Berlin plant won't begin production until 2022. That Berlin factory is a key pillar in Tesla's growth strategy. Meanwhile, Tesla rival NIO reported April sales on Saturday with XPeng Motors and Li Auto out on Sunday. BID Company is expected to release April sales in the next few days. These EV startups face increasing competition from Tesla, one another, and traditional automakers such as Volkswagen, as well as chip shortage and crippling automakers worldwide. It'll be also interesting to see if Tesla suffers lost China sales from customer complaints, widely discussed by state media in recent weeks. Also, Mosaic on Monday headlines several earnings reports from the now fertile fertilizer group, Diamondback Energy. Oh, I see what you did there. Ha 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 ha. That wasn't funny. Kicks off another bunch of shale earnings. Nvidia is on the IBD leaderboard. Index stock is on the IBD long-term leaders list. Tesla and NetStock are on the IBD 50. On the futures look like they're looking fairly healthy today. Dow Jones futures rose 0.6% versus fair value. S&P 500 futures advanced 0.55%, and NASDAQ 100 futures climbed 0.3%. And remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. So we will see what happens with these companies here, and looks like we might actually see close to another record for today's trading. We'll see where it goes. We'll see if Biden can put his foot in his mouth for the economy too, because he likes to do that when everything looks good on the futures. Let's see what's happening from MarketWatch today. Dow futures rise around 200 points to start May trade from Mark DeCamber. Powell is scheduled to speak at 2:20 p.m. Eastern Time at the Just Economy Conference. Oh, that's never good news. Whenever Jerome Powell opens his mouth, we see a drop in stocks. Jerome Powell could get up on the stage and say the sky is blue, and you'll see a slight pullback on your stocks for the day. So we'll see what happens with that here. U.S. stocks on Monday were seen trading higher to start the week and month as evidence mounted that American corporations were rebounding from the deadly commie fucking coup, portending a strong bounce for the overall economy in the second half of 2021. However, fears of a sustained rise in inflation and concerns that much of the economy's rebound has been priced into equity valuations has created some unease among investors and has the potential to knock stocks around. Futures for the Dow Jones Industrial Average were rising 223 points to reach 33,990, a gain of 0.7%. S&P 500 index futures were up 22.35 points to 4196.75, a gain of 0.5%, and NASDAQ 100 futures advanced 38.75 points, or 0.3%, to 13,888.75. On Friday, the Dow Jones posted a weekly decline of 0.5%, but notched a 2.4% gain in April, while the S&P 500 has virtually unchanged but gained 5.6% last month. The NASDAQ Composite registered a weekly loss of 0.4%, but jumped 7% in April. Investors have been keenly focused on the recovery of U.S. corporations in the aftermath of the commie fucking coup, with some of the biggest companies affirming that a genuine rebound is underway. That rebound was at least partially on display by the performance of investment conglomerate Berkshire Hathaway, which reported a 20% jump in its operating profit, rising to $7.02 billion from $5.87 billion the year prior. Berkshire, over the weekend, also reported first quarter net income of $11.7 billion, compared with a loss of $49.7 billion in the year earlier period. Yeah, right about the time that the commie coup was taking out everybody's economy and thou shalt shut down. Thou shalt not open thine business. The one commandment from Democrat governors across the country. Performances like that of Berkshire's has helped to bolster confidence in equities at the start of the month that has traditionally been associated with a comparatively weak 6-month seasonal stretch of trading starting in May. We look for a positive start of trading in May as investors are likely to adopt sideways movements while staying clear of selling and going away in May, wrote Peter Cardillo, chief market economist at Spartan Capital Securities. So, a few things to look at here. Summer vacation is going to be out, so the teachers usually hunker down in this stretch of months, which is part of what drives the don't buy cycle that they're talking about here. So, a couple things to watch, and we will see what is going on with that. All right, let's talk about what happened in my home state. In a place that I've never been inside, but I have been adjacent to numerous times at this point. So, starting with CBS 4 out of Minnesota, WCCO. Police fatally shoot gunman who killed 2 at Wisconsin casino. Looks like they have updated this since I put it back up, which means that we can probably skip the NPR article because they're going to be telling me the same thing. But let's see what CBS Minnesota has to say. Tribal leaders in northeastern Wisconsin were in shock Sunday, hours after a gunman opened fire at their casino complex, killing 2 people and wounding another in what witnesses described as a hailstorm of bullets. Brown County Sheriff's Lieutenant Kevin Pollock said the shooting at the Oneida Casino in Green Bay on Saturday night didn't appear to be a random attack. He was targeting a specific victim who was not there, but he decided to still shoot some of the victim's friends or co-workers, it appears, Pollock said at a news conference early Sunday. Police responding to the scene shot the gunman to death. Oneida Chairman Tahasi Hill told WLUK-TV on Sunday that he was in disbelief and called the shooting scary. He said the tribe prohibits firearms on its properties, but that mass shootings are kind of a regular thing in this country. Well, no shit, Sherlock. Our Congress has a boner for fucking gun control, and they're going to use this, once again, as pressure to come out and say, come on, Joe. Come on, Manchin, just end that filibuster and we will fix all of this, okay? Just do it. Look at all these people that you have killed at this point. And Kirsten, you too, look at this. Look at it. You did this. You fucking did this, you fucking piece of shit. Authorities have not released the identities of the gunman or his victims. The wounded person was being treated at a Milwaukee hospital. Pollock said that's quite a distance. They had to fly for life for that dude because that is quite a distance to take him down to Milwaukee. I wonder if they took him to Freighter, because they've got good medical centers in Green Bay too. So that's a little bit surprising to me. The attack happened around 7:30 p.m. in the restaurant at the casino complex operated by the Oneida Nations, whose reservation is located on the western side of Green Bay, about 4 miles from Lambeau Field, home of the Green Bay Packers. The complex includes a casino, conference center, hotel, and restaurant. Between 150 and 200 people work there, tribal leaders said. Jawad Yatim, a witness, said he saw at least 2 people shot. I know for sure 2 because it happened right next to us, literally right next to us, Yatim said, but he was shooting pretty aggressively in the building, so I wouldn't doubt him hitting other people. We got the hell out of there, thank God we're okay, but obviously we wish the best for everyone who's been shot. Pollock, the Sheriff's Department lieutenant, wasn't sure if the shooter was a former restaurant employee, but said it appears that there's some relationship that had to do with employment. Whether or not they all work there, we're still working on, he said. Gambler Max Westfall said he was standing outside after being evacuated from the building for what he thought was a minor issue. All of a sudden, we hear a massive flurry of gunshots, 20 to 30 gunshots for sure, Westfall told WBA-TV. We took off running towards the highway. There had to have been 50 cop cars that came by on the highway. It was honestly insane. Pollock said authorities called for a tactical alert after receiving the report of an active shooter. That brings every agency from around the area to the casino to the Radisson, he said, of the large law enforcement presence. So, a lot of stuff happened with this. A lot of stuff was being talked about by this almost immediately as soon as all this came out. And it was all the usual stuff. Oh no, another mass shooting. And that dumb fucking prick Jeff Tiedrich is like, another well-regulated militia came in and committed an act of defense against employees of a casino. Oh my God, I'm sending useless thoughts and prayers. And there was another one. Shannon Watts came out with this, list of, oh, well, look at all these, Wisconsin's got the weakest gun laws in America, which is fucking bullshit too, by the way, because I've bought guns in Wisconsin, and I understand what the gun laws are in this state. Now, we don't have any information on what weapon was used. We have a little bit of information on what the motive was, but one thing I also want to point out, and I talked about this a little bit right after this happened, it's time to start calling, because Oneida Casino, just like they said in the article, posted, no guns allowed. You can't have any guns in the casino. You can't have any guns on the ground. You're not even supposed to have your gun in your truck while you're in the parking lot at Oneida Casino. And it might be time for us to start looking at some of these businesses that don't allow us to arm back up. Because, you got to ask, would the guy have been in there and shooting if he'd have known that somebody was going to shoot back? You got to ask the question. And it's a legitimate question for me. It is a legitimate question at this point. I hate that it's a legitimate question, but it is a legitimate question. Would this have happened if the guy knew that he was going to face some sort of resistance off of this? From the guests, not the police. Obviously, I think he knew he was going to face resistance from the police, but would this have happened at this point? And even still, would it have gotten as far as it had if somebody had come out, started shooting? Would somebody have shot back? Would an armed citizen have been able to disarm this one? Or at least talked him down? Gun-to-gun Mexican standoff style. It's time. That's what the left keeps trying to say. It's time to boycott. It's time to boycott. Well, it might be time to boycott businesses that fucking hate you and don't want you to be able to defend yourself on their grounds. It might be time to start doing that. It's not the solution that I want. I want people to just be able to trade freely with whatever they want. But if we're going to continue to start to gather in these soft targets, it might be time to start saying no. I'm not going to go into your give you my money if you're going to wait for the police to come up. So, there's that. Like I said, this does look like this was targeted. Like this guy was going in specifically to kill a certain person or certain people. So, we won't know until more information is released from this. And we might actually, like I said, we might be able to skip the NPR article, but it's okay because I do have another one later on in the show. Let's see what Fox 11 Online has to say about this one. 3 killed, 1 injured, and a shooting at Oneida Casino. 3 people, including the shooter, were killed and a 4th seriously injured in a shooting at Oneida Casino Saturday night. At 7:28 p.m., the call came in of an active shooter situation at the casino. The call came from the Duck Creek restaurant within the Radisson that there was someone shot at the Radisson, and that's how the first calls came out, said Lieutenant Kevin Pollock with the Brown County Sheriff's Department. Brown County Sheriff's Office says law enforcement officials killed the shooter because many agencies responded. It's not clear which officers were involved in the shooting. The surviving victim was airlifted to the hospital in the Milwaukee area. So, yep, he did get flighted for life. It appears to be a targeted event, not a random shooting, so there's no threat to the community, said Pollock. So it does look like this is going to be a lot of the same, but we can see some of the video of people waiting outside. Yeah, that's the evacuees.
Morning, Maggie.
All right, so that's what we're seeing here. Let's just double check in with our friends over at NPR because they do need your money, so I do need to tell you about them here. Oh, even the State Patrol is in on this one. 2 killed in shooting at Wisconsin casino, gunman slain. This comes to NPR by the Associated Press. And remember, they're putting this article out there because they need your money, so make sure that you send them all of your money. I'm sorry, comrade, it's not your money, it's our money. National Communist Radio, ready to take your money to advance their goals. Authorities in Wisconsin say a gunman killed 2 people at a Green Bay casino Saturday night and seriously wounded a third before he was shot and killed by police. Kevin Pollock said investigators believe the gunman was targeting a specific person he was angry at, but the person wasn't at the casino at the time. The gunman decided to still shoot some of the victim's coworkers or friends, it appears, Pollock said. Oh, I'm sure he did at this point, too, because I'm guessing that he went in. I don't know what happened, but I'm guessing at this point that this is probably angry ex or angry former coworker that found out that said coworker was stealing tips. That's one of the 2 things that I'm thinking happened here. Plus, under the pressure of everything that we're seeing from the commie coof, dude snapped and got pissed at one of the 2 situations off of here. Then he got there and found out that the person that he was targeting wasn't there and realized, oh shit, I'm going to get shot anyway. Well, let's have a little bit of fun while I'm here. Is what I'm guessing happened. Could I be wrong? I guess we'll find out once the details get released. But, yeah. So we'll see what happens with that. I did want to touch a bit on this one from, excuse me, from the New York Post. Just because it does seem like they might have a little bit more detail coming out of this one here. This comes from the New York Post's Mark Moore. Wisconsin casino shooting was a targeted attack, authorities. The gunman, who unleashed a hail of bullets inside a Wisconsin casino on Sunday night, was targeting someone he knew, but the would-be victim wasn't there, authorities said. 2 people were killed in the shooting at the United Casino in Green Bay, while a third person was seriously injured. The suspect was shot dead by the police. He was targeting a specific victim who was not there, but he decided to shoot some of the victim's friends or coworkers, it appears. Blah, blah, same stuff. Over and over again. Here's some more video of the scene. Now, it is interesting to me as we're watching this one here because at the time, Green Bay Crime reports that the suspect was in custody. So I am wondering what happened.
Holy fuck. What do we got going on here?
What do we got going on here, eh?
AR's hot.
Who's got the police scanner at?
Nobody.
Tyler's going up.
Holy fuck, eh? Hey, what do we got going on here? So, yeah, there again, it's, we see suspect in custody, and yet we find out that the suspect was killed. So, that's another question that I have off of this one, because that's what we found out right away Saturday night when this was happening, was that suspect in custody, and now we've got dead. So, we'll see what happens with this. I'm sure that if this does fit the narrative somehow, then we're going to start hearing about this left and right. And if this doesn't fit the narrative, this is just going to get memory holed back up out of the news. All right, let's go find some more stuff to talk about here. And let's see first if I just got kicked offline, because everything just locked up on me. Are we back? Did we lose out? Are we here? Fucking Spectrum, seriously. All right, let's keep going. Let's talk Rudy. Rudy W. Giuliani tweets out, the DOJ in late 2019 covertly obtained access to my iCloud and never notified me. They invaded the attorney-client relationship as we were defending against the phony impeachment. These prosecutors violated the laws, not me. If again nothing is done, you could be next. And Phoenix Rising replies back out, do you realize it was Trump's DOJ in 2019 and Barr was in charge? Well, We found out very quickly at the end of that Barr was not a Trump ally. In fact, he was a part of the swamp. Are you saying Barr broke the law? I'm shocked. So, I guess we'll see what happens with this. I'm still concerned about the fact that they felt that they could just blatantly go up and target Rudolph Giuliani for all of this, and we don't know what's coming off of this, but the Daily Wire reports that the New York Times and the Washington Post and NBC were all forced to retract false claims about Trump lawyer Rudy Giuliani from Joseph Curl. The biggest papers of record in the U.S., the New York Times, a former newspaper, and the Washington Post, where democracy goes to die in darkness, have been forced to retract a report about FBI's communications with former President Trump's longtime lawyer, Rudy Giuliani. The Post on Thursday was the first to report that Giuliani was explicitly warned by the FBI that he was a target of a Russian effort to influence the 2020 presidential election, citing unnamed sources identified only as people familiar with the matter. Of course it's people familiar with the matter. We can't cite an actual source. Just trust us, bro. Also, the conservative news network, One America News, was also warned by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. But on Saturday, the Post put out a correction, noting it had removed both assertions. An earlier version of the story, published Thursday, incorrectly reported that One America News was warned by the FBI that it was a target of a Russian influence operation, the correction reads. That version also said the FBI had provided a similar warning to Rudolph W. Giuliani, which he has since disputed. This version has been corrected to remove assertions, and that OAN and Giuliani received the warnings. The paper said, the original story, said that Giuliani was in fact targeted. The FBI became aware in late 2019 that Rudolph W. Giuliani was the target of a Russian influence operation aimed at circulating falsehoods intended to damage President Biden politically ahead of last year's election. According to people familiar with the matter, said the piece, officials plan to warn Giuliani as part of an extensive effort by the Bureau to alert members of Congress and at least one conservative media outlet, One America News, that they faced a risk of being used to further Russia's attempt to influence the election's outcome. The Reds are under the bed. Oh my God, check under your bed for the Reds. Why are we still spouting 1940s fucking propaganda here? The Times also corrected its erroneous report. An earlier version of this article misstated whether Rudolph W. Giuliani received a formal warning from the FBI about Russian disinformation. Mr. Giuliani did not receive such a so-called defensive briefing, the Times wrote on Saturday in a correction attached to the bottom of the story. Regardless of all of this, we still have the DOJ, whether it be under Barr or whether it be under Trump, Garland, whether it be under Barr or Garland, we still have a DOJ that is going out and targeting U.S. citizens that are political enemies of the current administration and the so-called deep state, the establishment politicians. I'm sure that the FBI is going to knock on my door at some point here. I'm sure that they're watching this right now. Or they're watching in the windows, or they've got my phones tapped, or something or other here. Because I speak out against the government at a regular basis. I'm sure that I've got my own FBI agent at this time. So, but there are your corrections right there. Probably buried back on page 16 where nobody's going to come back and look at it. Let's keep going here. Let's talk Biden for a little bit. Charlie Spearing first tweets out, "I'm in trouble," with a video of the House Plan in Chief. Let's have a listen to this. What is he doing?
Raphael Warnock! Senator Ossoff!
This is painful to watch.
looking for my mask. I'm in trouble.
I'm so glad I finally found you. Yes, that one in a million, girl. And now with my loving arms around you.
Well, hey, first off, this stream is now demonetized for that music there, but it's like, come on, man, I'm in trouble. I can't find my mask, man. And you saw it out there. Jill walks out on the platform, not announced. She just walks out there. This is painful to watch. This is painful to see. It's elder abuse at this point. All right, let's see what ABC has to say. From ABC News, Biden admin to return billions in border wall funding Trump diverted from the Pentagon. From Benjamin Siegel and Cecilia Vega. The Biden admin is returning to the Pentagon billions in funds diverted by President Trump to build the wall at the southwestern border, and plans to cancel all related construction contracts, an administration official told ABC News on Friday. Border wall construction. Is that Biden? No, the official. Border wall construction under the previous admin tied up more than $14 billion in taxpayer funds, shortchanged our military, and diverted attention away from genuine security challenges like human traffickers. Rushed and haphazard wall construction also resulted in serious life, safety, and environmental issues, the official said. Amid its ongoing review to determine the fate of Trump's border wall, the Biden admin also said it would launch 2 new projects along the 1,900-mile U.S.-Mexico border, one to fill holes in the Rio Grande Valley levee system left by the wall construction project, and another to address soil erosion in a 14-mile stretch of barrier constructed by the Trump administration near San Diego, California. Guys, they're knocking the wall down. It's at this point that they're officially going to be knocking the wall down. Neither project would involve building a new border fence, but the administration official told ABC News it's not yet clear when the Biden admin will complete its review of the overall Trump-era project. As federal agencies continue to review the problems created by the prior administration's border wall construction and develop their plans, today they will start taking initial steps consistent with the president's proclamation to reaffirm our commitment to the military and protect border communities, the official said in a statement. Are you ready to go back to war, you guys? Lawmakers from both parties, including Ted Cruz and Vincent Gonzalez, have called on the Biden admin to address the gaps left in the federal levee system in the southern Texas ahead of the hurricane season to help prevent flooding. Angry local officials threatened to plug the gaps themselves and seek reimbursement from the federal government down the line. Well, that's kind of your job, local officials. That's kind of what you're supposed to be doing. You're not supposed to be depending on the federal government to do this. Read the Constitution you vowed an oath to protect and uphold. The Department of Homeland Security said in a statement later Friday afternoon it was acting to protect border communities. Construction under the prior administration blew large holes into the Rio Grande Valley's flood barrier system to make way for border wall. The flood barrier system had long provided low-lying regions of Hidalgo County, Texas, protection from catastrophic flooding, and these breaches have threatened local communities. DHS will start to work quickly to repair the flood barrier system to protect border communities. This work will not involve expanding the border barrier, the DHS said in a statement. The Defense Department will use the reclaimed military funds seized by the Trump administration in several tranches after Democrats refused to back Trump's calls for additional money for wall construction for the hundreds of domestic and overseas projects originally approved by Congress, which includes Afghanistan, by the way, and Yemen now, because that's going to be the next place we're sending people, including military schools and warehouses. Consistent with the president's proclamation, the Department of Defense is proceeding with canceling all border barrier construction projects paid for with funds originally intended for other military missions and functions, such as schools for military children, overseas military construction, projects in partner nations, and the National Guard and Reserve Equipment account. Jamal Brown, Deputy Pentagon spokesperson, said in a statement, Today's action reflects this administration's continued commitment to defending our nation and supporting our service members and their families. So, there you go. They're going to pay all that money right back to the Pentagon. Well, I guess they'll open up the border in one way or another. All right, let's grab one here from the Blaze. MSNBC host suggests Tim Scott is a slave to the GOP, claims Harriet Tubman would have left Scott enslaved. Ooh. Ooh. No. No. Oh. Even I found that in bad taste. From Chris Enlow. MSNBC host Tiffany Cross blasted Senator Tim Scott on Saturday after he declared that America is not a racist country. Cross called Scott a token and suggested Harriet Tubman, the woman who helped rescue slaves on the Underground Railroad, would have left Scott behind. Cross made it clear that she was angry with Scott's characterization of America, saying Scott, the lone black U.S. senator, has no sense and sounded a stone fool when he absolved America of being inherently racist. That's when Cross accused Scott of suffering from Stockholm Syndrome, a psychological connection that sometimes develops between victims of abuse and their abusers or captors. Tim Scott does not represent any constituency other than the small number of sleepy, slow-witted sufferers of Stockholm Syndrome who get elevated to prominence for repeating the false narrative about this country that makes conservative white people feel comfortable, Cross said. Oh, can you feel the racism in this? Can you feel the absolute bigotry in this? Not only did Cross call Scott a token and claim that Tubman would have left Scott enslaved, but she also accused Scott of being thirsty for white approval and suggested that Scott is a tap dancer for Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. How did they get away with saying shit like this? And I'm sorry, but flip the script. Flip the parties on this one. If Tucker Carlson had said this about a black representative that he was just tap dancing for the House Democrats, if he was tap dancing for Nancy Pelosi, Tucker Carlson would be removed from the television and polite society. They would Alex Jones his ass if he said the same thing. I can't believe they get away with saying stuff like this. I really can't at this point. This is just beyond racism. Cross went on to say that Scott shamed the ancestors and appeased the oppressors and suggested that the Republican Party slave by invoking the movie Django Unchained. Please, Senator, say more about how unracist the country is while you trot out that tired line about going from cotton to Congress to clown. Cross said, perhaps this was merely Senator Scott's audition to be Sam Jackson's understudy in the film Django. Oh. How in God's name could somebody like this get away with something like that? That is beyond deplorable at this point. I can't even begin to imagine what would happen if I said something like this. But that's MSNBC for you. All right, let's grab one here from Newsweek. Gary O'Connor, Texas Democrat who called Tim Scott an Oreo, faces calls to resign from Christina Zhao. Texas Democrat Gary O'Connor is facing calls for his resignation after referring to the Republican South Carolina Representative Tim Scott as an Oreo. In a since-deleted Facebook post, O'Connor, who chairs the Lamar County Democratic Party, criticized Scott after the Republican delivered a rebuttal to President Joe Biden's congressional address. I had hoped that Scott might show some common sense, but it seems clear he's little more than an Oreo with no real principles, he wrote. The term Oreo is sometimes used as a disparaging and offensive slur for a black person who is regarded as having adopted the attitudes, values, and behavior thought to be characteristic of middle-class white society, often at the expense of their own heritage, according to dictionary.com. Yeah, it's, brown on the outside, white on the inside. It's kind of like when, I know that on King of the Hill, at one point, some of the Asian members of the Asian Country Club that Khan wanted to join called him a banana. Oh, I don't want to be a banana though. I don't want to be yellow on the outside and white on the inside. So they've got all kinds of these racial slurs for this, and it's usually people from the said race that are using the slurs, which is, well, not even surprising at this point. Gary O'Connor's comments against Senator Scott is abhorrent, insulting, and unforgivable. Both he and the entire Lamar County Democratic Party should be ashamed of this racist behavior. Fallon said in a statement, O'Connor must apologize and step down immediately. Additionally, I call on both the Democratic Party of Texas and the NAACP to condemn those words, and the state party should take swift action to censure him. This kind of behavior is not tolerable in Texas, the United States, or any political party. Yeah, absolutely. This should not be acceptable in 2021. After we had so much in the early 2000s, in the late 90s, early 2000s, so much racial reparation going on. It almost looked like, and the teachers might have been right when I was in middle school, when they had this grand vision that there would be no more racism by the time my class was out of college. That it would all be eliminated at that point. And it really did look like, at the time, that we were going that direction. Up until right about 2009. So, that's what we're seeing from that. Let's go on. Let's talk a little bit more about Biden, shall we? So, Biden was on the Today Show. I got a couple clips of this one, and we can hear what it is that he has to say. First, Tom Elliott. These are all Tom Elliott tweets, too. He made a thread about this. Biden on wearing masks despite being vaccinated. It's a patriotic responsibility, for God's sake. That was my worst Biden impression there is.
CDC guidance this week about outdoor mask wearing. Yeah. A lot of folks excited that they can now shed these masks if they've been double vaccinated. Are you going to be one of these folks now? We no longer going to see the President of the United States outside with a mask on?
Sure. I mean, but what I'm going to do, though, because the likelihood of my being able to be outside and people not come up to me is not very, very high. So it's like, look, you and I took our masks off when I came in because look at the distance we are. But if we were, in fact, sitting there talking to one another close, I'd have my mask on and I bet you'd have a mask, even though we've both been vaccinated. And so it's a small precaution to take that has a profound impact. It's a patriotic responsibility, for God's sake. It's making sure that your wife, your children, if in fact they haven't been vaccinated, making sure that they're not going to get sick.
Before you took office, CDC guidance this week about outdoor mask wearing. Yeah.
So, and there was that point where the CDC said that it was almost impossible for you to transmit if you were asymptomatic. And, the vaccination is supposed to help make you asymptomatic. You still get the disease, but you're asymptomatic. Which I don't understand any of that at this point. It seems like the vaccination doesn't do jack fucking shit. Based on what they're telling me. And I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I know that they've talked about it making it mandatory. And they've made people afraid to the point that they go out and they throw their vaccination card up as a sign of compliance and obedience. When they started talking mandatory, that was where I stopped being interested in even having the vaccine. Because I was actually interested. You guys remember, back when we first started talking about a vaccine, back in May of last year, I said, okay, well, if they get it out, it'd be kind of cool, and it'd be kind of interesting to be one of the first ones out there to go and grab this. And then they started talking about mandatory, and I said, nope, never mind. Good ideas should not be mandatory. And even once they start talking about mandatory, that's where I'm out. I'm done. Biden blames Trump for the crisis at the border, because of course he does. They didn't have beds, man. They didn't plan for the overflow.
Now is what's happening at the southern border, is it a crisis?
It is getting urgent action now. For example, a month ago, we had...
Wait, what did he just say? Somebody see if they can translate this for me, because that sounded like a garbled fucking word salad.
The southern border, is it a crisis?
It is getting urgent action now. For example, a month ago...
Did I hear that right? Did he just say, it is getting urgent action? Because that's what that sounded like.
We had thousands of young kids in custody in places they shouldn't be, and controlled by the Border Patrol. We have now cut that down dramatically. Here's what happened, Craig. The failure to have a real transition, the two departments that didn't give us access to virtually anything were the Immigration and the Defense Department. So we didn't find out they had fired a whole lot of people, that they were understaffed considerably.
But in April alone, Mr. President, 170,000 people, migrants, apprehended at the border. It's a 20-year record. There are 22,000 unaccompanied children in our country right now. That's a record. That sounds to most folks like a crisis.
Well, look, it's way down now. We've now gotten control. For example, they didn't plan for, which it comes every year, this flow, whether it's 22,000 or 10,000. They didn't have the beds that were available. They didn't plan for the overflow. They didn't plan for the Department of Health and Human Services to have places to take the kid from the Border Patrol and put them in beds where there was security and there were people that could take care of them.
I just want to remind everybody about the beds thing for one second. And I see somebody pointed out in the chat that there was the deal with Democrats to not have the beds in the facility. Also keep in mind, and this was a big thing here that happened. What the hell was that? Was that in 2020? Or was that still back in 2019? Where Wayfair got a contract from the government, and it was a pretty juicy contract too. I read the details of it at the time. It was big money for Wayfair when they went out and did this. Where they were supposed to be providing the beds for the facilities, the overflow facilities, as you will. They were supposed to be providing thousands upon thousands of beds for these facilities. And then people found out about it, and their employees went out and made a massive boycott campaign against Wayfair for aiding in the evil Trump administration. And that was Wayfair too. I'm sure that IKEA probably got the same thing. Any other major furniture manufacturer who got the contract from the government probably went out and dealt with the same fucking thing. People came out and started screaming about that. But it went so far with Wayfair that somebody made up a child trafficking instance. A child trafficking scandal for Wayfair. Which I'm guessing, and I still think was just a rogue employee started making shit up. He went out and started putting massive prices on stuff in the catalog for Wayfair, and then started leaking it out to the press so that everyone like, hey, why are they spending $10,000 for a cabinet? Oh my God, it must be child trafficking. Oh no. So people were actively being blocked from sending beds down to this. But I hear you guys tell me that it sounds like he's saying it's getting there. Let's listen to that one more time, because it just sounded like Swedish Chef.
Now is what's happening at the southern border, is it a crisis?
It is getting urgent action now. For example,
okay, I can hear the urgent action now off of that, but it is getting urgent action now, is what I hear from it. Or also, get your bitch there. All right.
During the campaign,
Let's grab one more
during
here.
the campaign.
Biden on failing to reunite a single migrant child with his or her family. I don't think that's true. That could be. The thing is, we don't know yet where those kids are. We're trying like hell to figure out what happened.
During the campaign, you pledged to reunite hundreds of children who have been separated from their parents by the previous administration. According to our reporting, in your first 100 days, not one child's been reunited.
I don't think that.
How is that?
I don't think that's true, but that could be. What we have done is we have united children with their families as they've come across the border. But one of the things is we don't know yet where those kids are. We're trying like hell to figure out what happened. It's almost like being a sleuth, and we're still continuing to try like hell to find out where they are.
You've said to migrants, don't come. You said don't come. You're very clear. Or would you tell parents in Central America and Mexico, don't send your kids?
Absolutely. And look, here's the deal.
So don't send your kids. That's the message.
Do not send your kids, period. They're in jeopardy making that 1,000-mile trek. And so what we're doing now is we're going back to those countries in question where most of us coming from and saying, look, you can apply from your country. You don't have to make this trek.
This sounds like a person who has no control in anything, and he's just out there speaking the lines. Just don't make the trek, okay, man? We can't handle you yet. All right, that's Biden's one-on-one over on the Today Show. I don't know who the journalist is for this one. I don't recognize the guy, but I also don't watch network television, so I haven't seen the Today Show since I was in high school. And I'm old now, so that's been a long time. That's been almost 20 years. Yeah, next year will be 20 years. All right, let's read a little bit from NPR. Because you remember how racist Trump was for doing the China ban? Do you remember that? We remember over at NPR, but we are going to conveniently forget for this one here. But make sure that you see that donate button on the top. Make sure you give them all of your money, because your taxpayer money doesn't do enough for them, and you need to send them your money. NPR, we need money to spread these national progressive ideas. Otherwise, people might be capitalist. NPR, spreading the communism 1% at a time. U.S. will impose new ban on travel from India as coronavirus rages. This is from Bill Chappelle. Let's see how unracist it is to ban travel from India. The Biden admin is set to enact a travel ban on any non-U.S. citizen or permanent resident coming to the country from India, as multiple coronavirus variants have driven India's COVID-19 outbreak to troubling new heights. And yet, we'll just let them parade across the southern border and release them back into U.S. cities without nary so much as a nasal test. The policy will take effect starting on Tuesday, the White House said. India has already been under a level 4 do not travel advisory from the State Department, which issued or updated scores of travel advisories related to the continued spread of the coronavirus last week. The new ban will take precaution to a new level. The policy will not apply to U.S. citizens, a Biden administration official said, speaking on a condition of anonymity. Lawful permanent residents and other people with exemptions would also be allowed to travel from India to the U.S. As part of existing restrictions on international passengers, anyone arriving in the U.S. would still be subject to coronavirus testing measures and must enter quarantine if they have not been vaccinated. The travel ban is being imposed on the advice of the CDC, according to, hey, make sure that you hit that donate button. It looked like that you were close to it. So we better remind you halfway through the article, because you're reading this and you didn't donate. NPR, we still need to spread these progressive national ideas. There's some links in the chat for you guys for a much, much better place for you to donate your money to. In a statement issued Friday, Psaki said the policy will be implemented in light of extraordinarily high COVID-19 caseloads and multiple variants circulating in India. Like many countries, India dealt with an initial wave of coronavirus in 2020, but it's now enduring a tsunami of new cases, forcing a shortage of key resources from hospital space to oxygen tanks. Well, and you've got a lot of people concentrated into a relatively small area in India. Also keep that in mind. And the population centers are massive in that country. Lots and lots of people crammed close together. Street food everywhere. Nobody's probably wearing a mask here. Plus, you know, you go into the city. You go into, I don't know, Bangladesh? Is that a city? I don't know. I don't know enough about India. You go into New Delhi. There's probably actually good medical apparatus for people in the big cities. But you know, once you go out in some of the more remote areas of India, you know, you got a guy that's sticking leeches on you and saying a prayer for you. That's your medicine. And if you do want to go to a doctor, it's a 20-mile walk to go to the doctor. By the time you're there, the coronavirus would have passed. So yes, there's, you know, in some places in India, a limited amount of medical apparatus for people to go and see. And yeah, I can see where some of this is starting to outbreak off of this, but still, it was racist beyond racist for anybody to suggest a China travel ban at the very beginning of this, when Nancy Pelosi standing out there says, "Nah, go down to Chinatown and oh fuck, I lost my teeth. Go down to Chinatown and party, everybody, because it's xenophobic to ban Chinese travel, okay?" And now here we sit. All right. Are you guys ready for some propaganda? You guys like propaganda. That's why you're here. You love propaganda. From CNN, how the U.S. went from having one of the worst COVID responses to being a global leader in vaccinations under Biden. Ah! And the angels came out and sang, and the clouds broke and the sun came out. And Biden, he is our hero. From Ashley Semler at CNN. For the last 100 days, President Biden and his top advisors have mounted an urgent wartime effort to get millions of coronavirus vaccines into the arms of Americans in order to beat back a pandemic that has upended the world for the better part of the year. The effort, described by CNN during an in-depth interview with 3 of the administration's top COVID advisors and 2 other White House officials, has allowed the U.S. to go from having one of the worst COVID responses in the world to being a global leader and getting shots in arms. The interviews reveal how the Biden team inherited a pandemic at its zenith, with high demands for vaccines and little supply. Oh, how our sainted Joseph Biden Jr. came out and saved the world. The president, at times impatient, pressed his advisors harder on ways to improve the federal government's response to the virus. Everybody bow down and worship at the feet of Biden. He has saved the world, everybody. Fully aware that success or failure in getting Americans vaccinated would make or break his presidency. No, CNN was just going to stop reporting on the shit anyway. Biden and his team set vaccination goals and jump-started the federal response to meet them, deploying active duty military and Federal Emergency Management Agency to help with vaccinations. Oh, I'm going to fucking puke. Here's reality. In spite of what it is that CNN has to say about this, here's what actually happened. The Donald, in between picking up his phone and tweeting out stupid fucking shit, came out and implemented what he called Operation Warp Speed to try and do his best to get a COVID vaccine out by the end of 2020. By the end of his term, he vowed to get a vaccine out and onto the market and into the arms of people, and pulled out all the stops and gave funding to a lot of people who probably didn't need the funding to do so. Throughout that time, certain government officials, like one Kamala Devi Harris, came out and said, I wouldn't trust any vaccine that came out under the Trump administration. And then they were handed a vaccine, ready to go. Both of them were fully vaccinated before taking office. And millions of shots were already going into the arms of people before either of them took office. Now, yes, Pfizer, BioNTech, Moderna, all of them, they did have to wait until after the changing of the guard before they could release the vaccine, because otherwise the Trump admin might get the credit for this. But yeah, they didn't inherit a mess. They had the golden fucking ticket handed to them on a silver platter. A sheet of gold hammered down to paper thin and printed. This is your way. This is your way to run propaganda. On a silver platter. That's what actually happened with this. But there's your propaganda. Speaking of more propaganda, change of the goalpost from the New York Times, a former newspaper. Reaching herd immunity is unlikely in the U.S. Experts now believe. Move them goalposts because people are starting to think that the government control is fucking bullshit. Wear your mask forever, folks. From Apurva Mandavili. Wait. Reaching herd immunity is unlikely in the U.S., experts now believe. Written by a person whose family heritage comes from the country that Biden just banned travel from. Oh my God, it writes itself, people. It just writes itself. Early in the pandemic, when vaccines for the coronavirus were still just a glimmer on the horizon, the term herd immunity came to signify the end game. The point when enough Americans would be protected from the virus, so we could be rid of the pathogen and reclaim our lives. Now more than half of the adults in the U.S. have been inoculated with at least one dose of the vaccine, but daily vaccination rates are slipping, and there is widespread consensus among scientists and public health experts that the herd immunity threshold is not attainable, at least not in the foreseeable future, and perhaps not ever. Instead, they're coming to the conclusion that rather than making a long-promised exit, the virus will most likely become a manageable threat that will continue to circulate in the U.S. for years to come, still causing hospitalizations and deaths, but in much smaller numbers. How much smaller is uncertain and depends in part on how much of the nation and the world becomes vaccinated and how the coronavirus evolves. It's already clear, however, that the virus is changing too quickly, new variants are spreading too easily, and vaccination is proceeding too slowly for herd immunity to be within reach anytime soon. Continued immunizations, especially for people at highest risk because of age, exposure, or health status, will be crucial to limiting the severity of outbreaks, if not their frequency, experts believe. The virus is unlikely to go away, said Rustam Antia, an evolutionary biologist at Emory University in Atlanta. But we want to do all that we can to check that it's unlikely to become a mild infection. The shift in outlook presents a new challenge for public health authorities. The drive for herd immunity, by the summer, some experts once thought possible, captured the imagination of large segments of the public. To say the goal will not be attained adds another why bother to the list of reasons that the vaccine skeptics use to avoid being inoculated. Yep, the goalpost is moved once again. Not to mention the fact that they tell you that the vaccine does nothing, and you still have to wear the mask, and you still have to socially distance, and you should still stay quarantined in your home, even if you got the vaccine. Move them goalposts once again, and stay under government control forever. All right, let's talk Cheney. GOP leaders threaten Cheney ouster from Jonathan Swan, Glenn Johnson, and Elena Treen. Top Republicans are turning on Representative Liz Cheney, the party's highest-ranking woman in Congress, with one conservative leader suggesting she could be ousted from her GOP post within a month. The comments by Steve Scalise, the minority whip, and Jim Banks, chairman of the Republican Study Committee, carry weight because of their close relationship with House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, who is openly feuding with Cheney. Banks, leader of the largest conservative caucus in the House, told Axios Friday that Cheney's continued criticisms are an unwelcome distraction and that he questions whether she would retain her leadership role in a month. Banks' comments were echoed more diplomatically by Scalise, the number 2 Republican in the House. During an interview with Axios on Friday, he said of Cheney, "The idea that you just disregard President Trump is not where we are, and frankly, he has a lot to offer still." Earlier in the week, McCarthy himself told reporters, "If you're sitting at a retreat that's focused on policy, focused on the future of making America next century, and you're talking about something else, you're not being productive." Yeah, I am wary of having anybody with the last name Cheney anywhere in GOP leadership off the beginning. But, generals gathered in their masses. Another fucking war pig that wants to use the GOP to make more war in the Middle East forever. All right. From the New York Post. Feds raid Alaska spa in search of Nancy Pelosi's stolen laptop. Let me read that for you again, just in case you didn't believe that a headline like that could be that actually fucking stupid. Feds raid Alaska spa in search of Nancy Pelosi's stolen laptop. From John Levine. Federal agents raided a small resort in Homer, Alaska this week, telling the owners they were on a hunt for a laptop stolen out of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's office during the January 6th Capitol Selfie Fest. Marilyn Hooper, who owns the picturesque Homer Inn and Spa, says feds seized her laptop computers and a cell phone. Another phone, which belonged to her husband, Paul Hooper, was reviewed but later returned to him, the Associated Press reported. Marilyn Hooper told the local Kenai radio station, KSRM, that federal agents believed she and her husband had Pelosi's laptop and had been part of the mob which forcibly breached the Capitol during a riot that left... No, it didn't. I can't even say that. That left one protester dead by police shot. Didn't leave 5 dead. Did not leave 5 dead. They said, "Well, we're here for Nancy Pelosi's laptop." And I said, "Oh, so it was stolen and it's at large? Good to know. Thought maybe it was just a conspiracy theory, so thanks for the intel," Hooper said. Oh, the snark, I love it. Hooper claims agents showed her photos of a woman from the January 6th Capitol Selfie Fest who bears a striking resemblance to her, but that she told them they had made a mistake. The inn owner, who did attend the broader rally outside the Capitol that day with her husband, denied entering the building, and she told the feds they had confused her with a similar-looking woman. The laptop was confirmed missing by the California Democrats' Deputy Chief of Staff, Drew Hamill, 2 days after the riot, who said the computer had only been used for presentations. That's cool. I'd never seen that before. There's a note that was left on Speaker Pelosi's office during the Capitol riot on January 6th, and it says just simply, "We will not back down." So, yeah, that's fun. Now they're just going after random citizens. All right, I've got one from MSN News from Reuters. Trump-backed candidate heads to runoff in Texas special congressional election. From Susan Cornwell. A Texas Republican backed by former President Trump has advanced to a runoff election to fill a U.S. representative vacancy left by the death of her husband, while Democrats appeared in danger of being shut out of the contest. Susan Wright, whose husband Ron Wright in February became the first sitting member of Congress to die of the commie coup, was the top vote getter on Saturday in a crowded field of 23 candidates vying to represent the state's 6th congressional district. Wright appeared to face likely to face another Republican in the expected runoff in the Dallas-Fort Worth suburb, a longtime Republican-held district. Democrats had hoped to pick up the seat to expand their slim House majority. Good luck. May the odds ever be in your favor. Wright received 19.2% of the vote, followed by former military fighter pilot Jake Ellzey, another Republican who drew 13.8%, according to the Texas Secretary of State's office. Just 354 votes and less than a half percentage point separated Ellzey from Democrat Jana Lynn Sanchez, who was in third place with 13.4%. Democrats have come a long way towards competing in Texas, but tonight shows we still have a long ways to go. Sanchez, the granddaughter of Mexican immigrants, wrote on Twitter. A runoff between the top two vote getters is required since no candidate received a majority in the first round. A runoff date has not yet been set. In a bizarre twist on election eve, Wright's campaign asked federal law enforcement authorities to look into reports of robocalls falsely alleging she had murdered her husband. Yeah, the Democrats are going to play dirty because they want Texas. They want Texas in a bad way. Bad way. Oh, they want that in a bad way. The election was the first test of the Texas electorate since President Biden's 2020 election victory. Trump defeated Biden in Texas, a state where Democrats hope to make inroads. Well, good luck. You can have Dallas and Austin and Houston. And that's about it at this point, I think. All right. Let's grab one from Fox News. University of Minnesota student leader urges peers to make life hell for cops. From Natalie O'Neill. Comes to Fox News via the New York Post. A University of Minnesota student, government leader, urged her peers to make life hell for campus cops by calling in fake incidents, according to a report on Wednesday. Lauren Myers, a member of the Minnesota Student Association Executive Board, allegedly directed students to use up campus cops' resources in an effort to pressure the department's police chief to resign, according to Alpha News. Well, that's a misdemeanor, so I hope you've got fine money because you're going to wind up paying a fine for that one. Make their lives hell, annoy the shit out of them, Myers said in the footage of a video conference. Like, use up their resources. Make officers show up to something. Myers had been addressing a letter sent this week from students to school president Joan Gable, calling on University of Minnesota Police Department Chief Matt Clark to resign for allegedly failing to properly protect students of color. The letter claims that Clark has refused to increase campus safety and wellness for students of color and allowed the utilization of UMPD as a fiscal arm of the oppressive state to subjugate the silence of community members. Puke. Get rid of some of the laws. She went on to threaten direct actions if our demands are not met. Dude, just expel this bitch at this point. Seriously. If she's going to threaten your university, you don't have the need to have her in there. And also, tell the lawmakers to repeal some of the laws because there are way too goddamn many of them. But that's happening. University of Minnesota. All right. This hellish scene here, which I actually reported this tweet, so I don't know why I'm showing it off of this, but Marani R. Stab says a car just drove through a crowd of protesters, dragging one on his hood, during a peaceful demonstration in southeastern Portland. The group of approximately 25 temporarily occupied an intersection as an act of civil disobedience in a demand for the abolition of police. Let's watch that scene. So, of course, on something like this, let me get the plate number back out of here. Let's pause that without the plate number back up on the screen, because that would make me a hypocrite if I just kept that back out there. But I mean, with everything that we're seeing off of this, first off, you notice that these kids didn't try to stop the semi that was immediately in front of the CRV. I'm sorry, not the CRV. What the hell is the little one that Honda does? It's not a Civic, but it's a different submodel of the Civic. CRV is the SUV. But when they stopped in front of the Honda, they stopped in front of the Honda, not the Freightliner that's sitting in front of them. Because there'd be a lot more of them dead if it was the Freightliner. But that's exactly the point at this point. You don't know what's going to happen when they come back and they crowd one of these little fucking cars. And if they did the same thing to my truck, I would do the same thing that the dude in the Honda did. I don't know if you're going to pull me out of my truck. If you're going to try and bash the windows and yank me back out of there. Well, you're not going to like it if you try to bash out the windows of my truck. I can tell you that. But, no. When you're crowding around a car like that and bashing on the windows, yeah, you're not occupying the intersection as an act of civil disobedience. You are actively assaulting somebody's person or property. And that person has a right to either flee or defend himself. All right, let's keep going. From CNN. Jenner opposes transgender girls participating in girls' sports. From Maeve Reston. Based, yo. When former Olympian and reality TV personality Caitlyn Jenner announced that she planned to challenge California Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom in the state's expected recall election this year, many trans activists across the country were quick to make it clear that she does not speak for them. No shit, Sherlock. In a brief TMZ interview with Jenner on Saturday, where she outlined her views on trans athletes participating in school sports, which, of course, TMZ came out and put out as a fucking poison pill for the Jenner candidacy, makes it clear why when a reporter asked Jenner during the impromptu interview for her opinion on the efforts by some Republican legislatures to ban transgender athletes from participating in sports consistent with their gender identities, she replied that she does not support trans girls playing on girls' teams. This is a question of fairness. That's why I oppose biological boys who are trans competing in girls' sports in schools, said Jenner, a Republican who is one of the most high-profile transgender Americans in public life. It just isn't fair, and we have to protect girls' sports in our schools. She did not answer a follow-up question from the reporter about whether that view delegitimizes the identity of children who transition and now identify as girls. Yep, that was the poison pill. Which, of course, they went out to try to put a poison pill into this, and that shit's not going to fly in California. So, well, it was nice watching Jenner run, but I don't think that this is going much further than this at this point. But, it's the Republican-led effort to get Gavin Newsom out, and the evil Republicans, and no Democrats signed on to this, in spite of the fact that well over 2.6 million people signed on to this. All right, I have one from the Jewish press for you guys, because I couldn't find it anywhere else. Iranian dissidents on Manhattan billboard don't trust the Ayatollah's apologists in U.S. media. From David Israel. Members of the Iranian opposition commissioned a billboard in Midtown Manhattan, opposite the offices of the New York Times, a former newspaper, last Friday, calling on Americans to ignore the media warning, Americans not to trust their media, which serves as apologists for the Iranian regime, and endorse a return to the nuclear agreement with Iran, aka Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. There's the billboard. They killed more than 1,500 innocents on the ground and lied about it. They killed 176 passengers on the air and lied about it. Regime of Iran lies about JCPOA 2. They intend to harm Americans. Do not trust the mullah's apologists in the U.S. media. The billboard states that the Iranian regime has killed more than 1,500 innocents on the ground and lied about it. referring to the Iranian protesters who were murdered by their government during demonstrations on November of 2019. The message continues, they killed 176 passengers in the air and lied about it, a reference to Iran's downing of Ukraine International Flight 752 on January 8th of 2020. The billboard concludes, below a graphic image of the supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, made up of phrases referring to Iran's crimes, stating that the regime of Iran lied about the JCPOA 2. They intend to harm Americans. Do not trust the mullahs, apologists in the U.S. media. Well, I'm sure that at some point we'll be back fighting another proxy war over there anyway. We can get out of Afghanistan just to go right back into fucking Iran. Alright. I got another one right here from the New York Times, a former newspaper. This came to us in the Discord via Silentcaster. Extremists find a financial lifeline on Twitch. From Kellen Browning. Terpsichore Maras Lindemann, a podcaster who fought to overturn the 2020 presidential election, recently railed against mask mandates to her 4,000 fans in a live broadcast and encouraged them to enter the stores maskless. On another day, she grew emotional while thanking them for sending her $84,000. Jeez. I guess I need to grow boobs. Millie Weaver, a former correspondent for the conspiracy theory website InfoWars, speculated on her channel that coronavirus vaccines could be used to surveil people. Later, she plugged her merchandise store where she sells $30 Drain the Swamp t-shirts and hats promoting conspiracies. Yeah, I can see where the New York Times, a former newspaper, would be against entrepreneurship. And a podcaster who goes by Zach Payne, or Red Pill 78, who pushes the baseless QAnon conspiracy theories, urged his viewers to donate to the congressional campaign of an Ohio man who has said he attended the Stop the Steal rally in Washington on January 6th. All three spread their messages on Twitch, a live streaming video site owned by Amazon that has become a new mainstream base of operations for many far-right influencers. Streamers like them turned to the site after Facebook, YouTube, and other social media platforms clamped down on misinformation and hate speech ahead of the 2020 election. Twitch comes with a bonus. The service makes it easy for the streamers to make money. Yeah, okay. I need 3 people watching on Twitch concurrently yet in order to make money. Easy to make money. Fuck you. Providing a financial lifeline just as their access to the largest online platforms has narrowed. The site is one of the avenues, along with apps like Google Podcasts, where far-right influencers have scattered as their options for spreading falsehoods have dwindled. You know, there's also fucking Trovo. And DLive. And a myriad of others. But Amazon, they're the ones that are going to respond to criticism. Keep that in mind. They're the ones who are going to look at this and Bezos is going to say, oh my god, they said Twitch. What do we do? What do we do? We have to shut these people down. And you notice their names are and their usernames are right out there too. This is a call to action. This is. Which, you know, at some point the call to action is going to affect this one too. So, I mean, if you like what I do, make sure you're following me on all the other platforms as well. And, you know, go to the Discord. You see it up in the chat, the Discord and the Gilded. Because if something does get shut down, then you'll know where to go next. I do have backups in place on all the platforms. Twitch has became a multi-billion-dollar business thanks to video gamers broadcasting their play of games like Fortnite and Call of Duty. Fans, many of whom are young men, pay gamers by subscribing to their channels or donating money. Streamers earn even more by sending their fans to outside sites to either buy merchandise or donate money. Now, Twitch has also become a place where right-wing personalities spread election and vaccine conspiracy theories, often without playing any video games. It is part of a shift at the platform where streamers have branched out from games into fitness, cooking, fishing, and other lifestyle topics in recent years. But unlike fringe live streaming sites like DLive and Trovo, which have also offered far-right personalities money-making opportunities, Twitch attracts far larger audiences. On average, 30 million people visit the site each day, the platform said. Twitch monetizes the propaganda, which is unique, said Megan Squire, a computer science professor at Elon University, who tracks extremists online. She said it was though listeners of the conservative radio host Rush Limbaugh, who died in February, were donating in real time and chipping in greater sums whenever Mr. Limbaugh shared more controversial ideas. You can turn the dial up and turn down and turn the flow of money up and down by saying certain things on your stream, Miss Squire said. Yeah, I don't dance for this shit either, you guys. And you guys know. I tell you what the mainstream media is telling you, so you don't have to go back and give them the extra click. But I'm not going to sit here and dance the way that Red Pill 78 does. Or anything else like that. But that's part of the problem here, because they're going to come out and, they say fringe live streaming sites like DLive and Trovo, which tells you, if you're reading this article, don't go to DLive and Trovo. All you're going to find is right-wing personalities, and we're the ones who need to tell you what it is that you need to do and believe. You see stuff like that, but, it's the same thing. The R-rated conservative comes out and says, get rid of fucking YouTube. He says that almost every day, and yet he still streams on YouTube. And it's the same thing with me. I still go to YouTube every day. As much as they push and demote content, I shouldn't go to YouTube. And Random Randy pointed out in the chat earlier that he doesn't get an alert for this. Because nobody does, because I'm not CNN. YouTube is algorithmically demoting people, but I go to it. If I just went to DLive and Trovo and nowhere else at all, I would get just one echo chamber of people out there. People who already believe that Biden is illegitimate. I'm sorry, I'm on YouTube. He's not illegitimate. He is the most popular president ever. Honk, honk, wink, wink. I would get a slew of people who already believe the stuff. But if I go to sites like, if I stay on Twitter, Twitter, for instance, that's another one too. Delete your Twitter. Well, if I stay on Twitter, then I have the chance to reaching out across the aisle to somebody who may actually still believe the mainstream propaganda. And I might not convince him at first, but, down the way, I might be that one voice that puts it out in a logical fashion that gets him to actually think about it. Hopefully come to his own conclusion. I don't want to tell the guy what to think, but at least get him thinking about another possibility that he might be wrong. And it's the same thing. I go to Amazon-owned Twitch because I do sometimes pull somebody in from the left, and you guys kind of shoot down his arguments, but, he's at least listening. He's at least coming in and hearing what the message is. Or YouTube. It's the same thing. You get somebody over on YouTube that comes out to, you're on YouTube, which obviously I'm undiscoverable by anybody on YouTube, unless it's by word of mouth, but you get onto YouTube and you reach out and you make contact with somebody who might not agree with you, but might actually be looking to think in a different direction other than what the propaganda has been teaching him forever and spewing to him forever. Otherwise, yes, we would just have a divided internet, and people like me would go to DLive, and people like, I don't know, Lacey Green or fucking Shoe on Head would go to Twitch and just speak to their echo chambers forever. All right, but that's what we see going with that. And of course, that's a call to action. You better shut these people down, because otherwise they might spread dangerous propaganda. All right, I got another tweet for you guys here. Oren Cass, which I found this one interesting. Angsty teens who think they're sticking to the man by wearing Abercrombie grow up to be lefties who think free daycare sticks it to suits. You guys remember who was wearing Abercrombie? When those of you who were my age were in high school? It wasn't the fringe guys. It wasn't the anti-authoritarian people. It was the people who grew up and thought they were going to be authoritarian. Moron. All right, let's grab one from Fox News. Houston police uncovered disturbing human smuggling case with more than 90 people trapped in a home. From Michael Ruiz. Houston police uncovered dozens of people trapped in a home in Chessington Drive after responding to a reported kidnapping call, authorities said on Friday. Police said they received tips Thursday and prompted an all-night investigation that eventually led investigators to the home on Friday. When we got into the house, we realized there were 90 people inside, Assistant Chief Darren Edwards told reporters. Jesus, how big was this house? The department's SWAT team entered the house at 12210 Chessington Drive, and the kidnapping investigation soon became a disturbing human smuggling case, Edwards said. Property records show the address contains a 2,319 square foot home. Oh, that's how big. With 5 bedrooms and 2 baths. Neighbors told police they were unaware that so many people were inside. It was being rented to a single man. Multiple people inside reported possible coronavirus symptoms, including fevers and loss of sense of smell. We're concerned that there may be some positive COVID cases inside the house, Edwards said. Police called in the health department to screen for possible commie cough infections and were weighing quarantine options as the victims received medical care inside the house. They were also provided food and water. U.S. Customs and Border Protection said that 1 in 4 victims of human trafficking or modern-day slavery are children, and the majority of forced laborers, including forced sex workers, are women and girls. Houston police found only 5 females in the home on Friday, and the rest were males. Edwards said none of the victims were children. This is definitely more of a smuggling thing and not a trafficking thing, Edwards said. But he said members of the public should keep their eyes open for any sort of suspicious activity and report it to investigators because they could be surprising yet again. So, yeah, from the looks of it, it looks like it's just people who are getting smuggled across the border to try and build a better life in the U.S. All right, I got one from The Hill. Changing America. SNL cast members who object to Elon Musk won't be forced to appear on the show with him. From Jenna Romaine. Saturday Night Live will reportedly not force cast members to perform alongside Elon Musk when he hosts the show on May 8th. Speaking historically, if a cast member has been that unhappy, they don't have to do it, a source told Page 6. SNL boss Lorne Michaels won't ever make them do anything they don't want to do. Following the announcement that he would host alongside musical guest Miley Cyrus, Musk took to Twitter to write, "Let's find out just how live Saturday Night Live really is," followed by a purple devil emoji. SNL cast members, Bowen Yang, responded by screenshotting the tweet and sharing it to his Instagram story with the caption, "What does this even mean?" with a sad face emoji. Fellow SNL cast member Adie Bryant shared a tweet by Bernie Sanders to her Instagram story in a veiled jab at Musk, which reads, "The 50 wealthiest people in America today own more wealth than the bottom half of our people." Let me repeat that because it's almost too absurd to believe. The 50 wealthiest people in this country own more wealth than some 165 million Americans. That is a moral obscenity. Musk is the 3rd richest person in the world. Other grievances stem from previous remarks Musk has made. Last year, Musk referred to the reaction to the coronavirus pandemic as dumb and wouldn't comply with California coronavirus restrictions to close his Tesla plant. So, well, this will get interesting. I might actually have to watch this one, and I don't care for SNL and their woke fucking bullshit anymore. But I just want to see who actually does come in and appear alongside the dude, and who just suddenly disappears. But that's interesting. All right, I got just a couple more here, then we will do something. One more here, and then we'll do something that restores my faith in humanity. So this one was very interesting. I was quite interested in this here. So the caption reads, BDE, which I don't know what that means, equals knowing when to pull it out. And, well, just watch what happens as this guy tries to get jumped, essentially. Boom.
Ahora sí es Raúl y chiste, no trae el tipo 24. Raúl y chiste.
Let's see that again. It's too bad it's a Twitter video and I can't do it in super slow-mo for you guys. Oh, and there he goes. Yeah, they want to go back and jump this guy, and he just sprays him with fucking gasoline. The only thing, and of course he's on the gas pump, so you couldn't actually do this, but the only thing that would have made this better is if he would have been smoking a cigarette and flicked it at the van as it drove off.
Ahora sí es Raúl y chiste,
Look at him.
no trae el tipo 24.
Not today.
Raúl y chiste.
One more time.
Ahora sí es Raúl y chiste, no trae el tipo 24. Raúl y chiste.
Yeah, that's kind of incredible. I'm not gonna lie. You're standing at the gas pump, almost no way to defend yourself. These people roll up because they're gonna try and rob you, and now they're doused in gasoline, and well, that's that. All right. And the last thing that we do on a Monday is something that restores my faith in humanity, which is always a good way to start the week here. So I grabbed this one here. I found this right before we went live. In bitterly divided election in South Lake, Texas, opponents of anti-racism education win big. Candidates who opposed the local school diversity plan took about 70% of the vote in wealthy Dallas-Fort Worth suburb. From Mike Hicksenberg and Antonia Hilton. 9 months after officials in the affluent Carroll Independent School District introduced a proposal to combat racial and cultural intolerance in schools, voters delivered a resounding victory on Saturday to a slate of school board and city council candidates who opposed the plan. In an unusually bitter campaign that echoed a growing national divide over how to address issues of race and gender and sexuality in schools, candidates in the city of Southlake were split between two camps: those who supported the new diversity inclusion training requirements for Carroll students and teachers, and those backed by a political action committee that was formed last year to defeat the plan. On one side, progressives argued that curriculum and disciplinary changes were needed to make all children feel safe and welcome in Carroll, mostly white but quickly diversifying school district. On the other, conservatives in Southlake rejected the school diversity plan as an effort to indoctrinate students with far-left ideology that, according to some, would institutionalize discrimination against white children and those with conservative Christian values. Candidates and voters on both sides described the election as a fork in the road for Southlake, a wealthy suburb 30 miles northwest of Dallas. So goes Southlake, a local conservative commentator, warned in the weeks leading up to the election, so goes the rest of America. In the end, the contest was not close. Candidates backed by the conservative Southlake Families PAC, which has raised more than $200,000 since last summer, won every race by about 70% to 30%, including those for 2 school board positions, 2 city council seats, and mayor. More than 9,000 voters cast ballots, 3 times as many as similar contests in the past. So that's it at this point, because you're going to sit here and you're going to teach people that being white is evil. You're going to teach people racist ideology, and people are going to reject it. And hopefully we're going to start seeing some of this come off in more than just, absolutely more than just these affluent suburbs. People are going to look at this. They're going to see what's happening in Dallas, which is a very liberal part of Texas. And they're going to say, hey, we can do this at our school board too. We just need to get out and vote. Make sure that we see the candidates out there who are resistant to this, get them on the ballot, and get out and vote. America is going to reject this racist crap that's racist against white people. And it restores my faith in humanity. I'm so happy about this. I'm extremely happy about this. And I hope that we see more of this. I really do. Now we've got someone leading the charge. Now it's time for us to take this to the rest of our communities as well. And get the people up on the ballots who are going to do this. Who are going to urge the government not only to not spew this racist propaganda, but get the people on the ballots who are going to urge the government to leave us alone. The voices have been heard, and now it's time. Now it's time to take back. Take back the authoritarian reins of the Biden admin and take back the country for ourselves. And with that, we're going to head on out of here for the morning. So let's change up the track. Let's change up the scene and let's head on out of here. All right, well, thanks everybody who came by and chatted throughout the day here, hung out in the live chat and kept us honest off of this. I saw a lot of you here, and I see you guys out there. Even though I don't do a lot of live chat during this program, I do see you guys out there. So if you're lurking right now, get those last minute messages in, because I do thank everybody personally on Friday as well for coming in and hanging out and chatting. I will be back here later on tonight with my wonderful co-host Elaine to talk about the Biden speech and a host of other stuff as well. I got to change around the itinerary as well, because we got to do some Cheney stuff and some Afghanistan stuff. So there's going to be a bunch of stuff tonight. Make sure that you guys don't miss it. That's going to be at 5:30 Central Time. Otherwise, if you guys can't make it there, come back and join me again tomorrow morning, 7. Well, we're still getting to that 7 a.m. mark. The goal is by the end of May to be back to 7 o'clock even on a weekday morning. So come back and hang out with us tomorrow for more Contemporary. Until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care, guys.